Howdy, Samantha here. So talking about hookahs, there is a video already up on some of the basic parts of a hookah. But in this video, I wanted to talk about some problems that people have when they start using a hookah. So one of the first problems that people have are making their heads. So kind of how do you pack the shisha in them, the holes that you put on the foil on top, yada yada, right? So basics to start off with. This is the head. This one is a funnel bowl. It's got a hole in the middle. It's kind of a wonky one, so we'll go with a more traditional sense. This one with the holes in the bottom. It's kind of like a mix between a vortex bowl and a regular bowl, but close enough for the point of this. So you put shisha in these guys. Shisha is tobacco, molasses, glycerin flavoring. So you can get them in little boxes. These are all Fokker. You can get them in big boxes. You can get them in resealable containers like this guy. It smells super good. Seriously, you can't smell through the camera, but it smells fantastic. It smells like blueberries. If you don't get it in a resealable container, make sure, if it comes in a box, that if you are not using it in one sitting, that you put it in a resealable container. So a lot of people, when they start smoking, they just kind of leave out their shisha. They open it up, put it on the counter, and just leave it out till they smoke it, and that might be a few days. That will dry your shisha out. So most brands, they are juicy enough that you're fine if you leave it out for a couple hours, but you don't want to leave it out for multiple days. It will dry out your shisha, which will then make it burn in your hookah. That does not taste great. So burned shisha does not taste great. I'm actually going to grab a different shisha because the head I'm going to make is for my partner. This is a premix of shisha, so it's all Fokker. That's the brand we use the most. This is an orange and mint mix. So, to start off with, when you're packing one that has holes in the bottom, what you want to do is take your shisha, kind of fluff it up a little bit. You don't want it to be like a super dense ball, and then you just cover it. So you fill that guy up with shisha, cover everywhere in the head. Make sure you're not pressing down on the shisha. That's another thing a lot of people tend to do when they start. They press down on it to compact it in there. So you want it to breathe because you're actually sucking air through this down to the rest of the hookah. That's where the air comes from, is the very top. So if no air can get through this head, you're not going to be smoking anything. So you want it to be kind of airy. You just want it to be fairly full. Don't want to pack it so far above it that it's like a mound. You want it to be fairly, you can tell there's a little bit above it. Not much, but you want it to be fairly flat across it. So, let me rinse my hand really fast, and I'll show you the second part of putting on the top. I don't have video editing software, so you have to bear with me for these like 5-second, 10-second gaps. But basically, so there's your head. You can use a regular piece of foil. These are pre-cut because I'm lazy. Or, if you're like me and you're lazy, a pre-cut might not even be enough. You want one that already has holes in it. Yeah, that's what I use, no joke. Already's got holes in it. So you can tell the spacing of these holes, kind of. I mean, you can see I got like a basic finger here. A little less than a finger apart. If you are a heavy smoker, it's best to do holes about this size, not too close together. If you put your holes too close together, then you're dancing on a line, okay? You can burn your hookah like that. I make really small holes when I smoke mine. I actually use this guy. It is, if I can get turned around here, it's like a needle that you would use for pinning clothes. I like tiny holes. But this is actually from Thumari. They're another shisha brand. great brand. Not sponsored, they're just a great brand. They give you a little poker. It's a little bit bigger. It's about the size that these holes make, which is what most people go with. There's actually a couple spots that need holes, so I'm gonna go ahead and poke those. Usually you poke it when it's on your hookah. So you have a flat side and a shiny side. Everybody has different opinions about which one goes up and down. I like the shiny side down. I think the shisha doesn't burn as fast like that. Maybe I'm crazy. It doesn't really matter. You just gotta put it on there. So put your foil on top, push down the sides. You want it to be tight. So pretty tight across the top. That's important. If you use regular foil or something that didn't have holes poked in it, now is when you would start poking your holes. You can again kind of see the space on these holes. That's pretty important. So when you're making your head, don't press your shisha down. Make sure it's kind of fluffy. Don't make really tight holes on the top. That can be a problem later. So those are two big things that I see when people are smoking. The other thing, let me get this up here. Is that people will get this part full of smoke and it'll taste kind of burnt. You can blow this guy out really easy. So just blow through this guy. You'll see smoke come out of here. This is a check valve. We talked about it in an earlier video, but basically it is a little piece screwed in. I'm clumsy. And there's a tiny little ball in there. So let me move you so you can see it. So, this little spot right here, that's where the ball goes. And it pulls itself in when you are smoking so that you don't pull air from this spot, so the air only comes from the top. And then when you blow it out, it pushes it out into this little vacant space. So if you are trying to blow out your hookah, nothing is coming out, just unscrew this guy and move that ball around, make sure it's loose. Sometimes it gets stuck. Maybe you haven't cleaned your hookah in a while, or maybe you got your hookah and it's got a plastic ball in it instead of like a metal one or a ceramic one. Plastic balls, nothing wrong with them, but sometimes they can catch depending on how smooth the casing is, and you might just need to wiggle with your finger a little bit to get it loose. Those are two big issues. What else? Water level. So you want to make sure that your stem is 1 inch down into the vase. If you have too much water when you smoke this, you won't see those wonderful bubbles all up here. The bubbles will be just really close at the top. Also, too much water will lead you to having water in your hose. It'll condensate into your hose anyways, but this will happen a lot faster. It will not taste good. If you ever pull your hose away from your mouth and you kind of have some stuff on you, we call it when your hookah's shitting on you. That sounds horrible, but that's what we call it. That little liquid that you get on your lip from your hose either means that your hose wasn't dried all the way or that you've got too much water in here. So make sure it's only about 1 inch in for a full-size hookah, less if it's smaller, obviously. Never really more than 1 inch, no matter how big you get on hookahs. If you don't have enough water, you're not going to see the bubbles. Pretty simple. You're just not going to see bubbles. It's also going to get harsh really fast. So that's pretty much it for problems that I see pretty commonly in the hookahs when you're first time smoking. The only other issue that we really see a lot is people who are using coals and not spreading them out evenly. So I try to use 3 or 4 coals on a hookah. That's it. Some places you go, they'll give you 6, 7, 8. That's fine. I am not personally a fan of that. I don't do that myself because I feel like when you put that many coals on your hookah head, your shisha burns and it doesn't taste great. Like, if your shisha is tasting kind of burnt and you've checked the water level, you've blown it out, you probably need to make a new head and just scrap what you have. Shisha is pretty inexpensive. It's not that big of a deal, but keeping your coal spread out is a great way to avoid that. So on this size head, I have gigantic hands, so it's not really a good measurement, But on this size head, I would do 4 coals. First one here, second one across, one next to it, next one across. The reason I do that is so then only one time, these 2 times, like so only that one time when you put a coal on, are you putting it next to an old coal spot. If you can put it across, put it across. The more space you have between them, the slower it's gonna burn. Obviously that doesn't matter if you stop between coals for a while and let your hookah cool down. I don't do that, but if you do, that's great. For this size head, I do 3. So 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's all that really fits for my heads. The coals that I'm referencing are crowns or carbo poles, usually like 38 millimeter coals, maybe 40 millimeter coals. If you use smaller coals, you could probably do more. It's just up to you and your preference. I would caution against double coals. A lot of hookah cafes will give you 2 coals on a head at a time. I would caution against that, especially for quick lights, because it's really easy to burn it. And if your lungs are still adjusting to smoking hookah on a regular basis, you don't want to do that to yourself. Natural coals are a little bit different. We'll cover that in a different video, but those go out a lot faster and usually use a couple at a time. So those are some quick issues that I see a lot for people that start smoking. If you have any questions or an issue you've experienced, let me know. We can talk about it. Maybe I can help you out with it. So yeah, thanks for watching.